Yeah. Welcome to the last lesson of news, combining news, sport, traffic, and weather, part 12 of 12. This is lesson 57 and the last of the recorded lessons. It won't be too long, as I said before, because this is, as you see, 50 slides here, but all the slides that are included are literally everything that we did cover up to this point in the past 11 lessons, right? So we're just doing a quick recap, right? So I'll make just like some points here and there based on the slides that do come up, and then I've got this cool great video that literally you'll enjoy it. You'll see it. It literally tells you how to put a bulletin together, like on air, and then the lady will say, for example, a headline word like, this is my name and this is the news. And then she'll say, like, here's a local story that is important to all people in the country, but also has whatever. Anyway, like, obviously, I'm not giving it enough. I'm not doing it, giving it the respect it deserves, right? You'll enjoy it, right? And then what I want to do, just because it's news. I've got the roundup from ENCA and the roundup for August. I think the second of the news that they put together there. It's an 8-minute video there. Okay, cool, great stuff. So I'm just gonna move on because you know which chapters we're working with, right? Um, and just get my PC a second to catch up. Okay. So again, right, okay, like we spoke about big news days, we spoke about big news and which ones are, how do we go with a particular news story that is relevant to our audience, right? And giving audiences a reason to talk more, know more, act more around and within their own lives, right? Um, New radio news can be so much more exciting than people realize, but we're no longer just in radio stations. As we know, we now have branched out into the digital space, right? And also the visual space, which is kind of like, again, it's the same for, well, that's not really true. I was going to say television has gone into the sound bites and the sound space. That could be. I've seen that before, where there might be certain reports. I don't, however, don't say that it is by any means a norm. Okay, anyway, citizen journalism, we did cover that up, cover that, and as you remember, that's when we get our information from citizens that are recording and covering news stories that are happening right there where we can't be there because it's a time thing. It's a time thing. It's a distance thing, whatever it may be, right? So have a different hands-on real life experience from and point of view of what happened. Like, for example, once again, shootings, disaster, certain building collapsing, things like that, right? And then we discuss the risks, of course, because the thing is, where we source the information from, we have to check and check and check whether or not this is fake news or whether it is also pushing a certain agenda. So again, this is important, right? Don't be interchangeable, be an individual. Information is available everywhere, on the radio, but also online. Everywhere, everywhere, everywhere. So why should a listener come to you as a news anchor or reporter on radio for information, right? Build a rapport, build a good credibility, and obviously build a good product for them to keep coming back, right? At the end of the day, it's all about storytelling, right? Tips, right? Tips, top tips from reporters. Talk to one listener at a time. Again, we said this, not plural. Silence is definitely powerful. In the right place, though. Cliches, new ideas off the record, uh, very important, right? Everything's important, but very important is collecting audio, actually doing an interview worth the efforts doing an interview. So do you want to collect the boxes and sound bites, etc., right? make sure that it obviously does appeal to a South African nation, right, or a Joburg population, or whatever it may be, right? Okay. Again, don't use the same leads twice. Try and change it from every half hour. No, not try, but do it. And then obviously rewrite the stories to update it so we can have multi-version news, right? So, and you want thought per sentence, please, simple sentences, and also the breakdowns of things like numbers and stats, etc., etc. Just make it simple, like you saw in the previous video from the lady at the BBC, right? So more great ideas, right? And from veteran newsman Ed Walsh, know when to file. Wearing comfortable shoes cannot be overemphasized, right? Because you're going to be in places you maybe are going to be there for a really long time. You might be standing, you might have to go through mines, etc., whatever it may be. You can't do it in heels, man. You're going to die to the ladies and maybe some men, right? So the value of most press releases received rarely exceeds the cost of bandwidth required to send them. That's a bold statement, but it's true. In real estate, the top three attributes of a property are location, location, location. In news, it's local, local, and local. No verb in news writing is more overused than say, as in officials say. So put some life into your copy and avoid over attribution. Let's see some more tips from Ed, right? Never lapse into non-conversational transitional phrases such as closer to home or in other news, right? Um, which we do, we say, go, like moving back to South Africa, moving to international news, that type of stuff, right? But never lapse into non-conversational, transitional phrases. All right, so establish presence by pre-filling when you won't be able to phone in. And remember, we're doing news, not history. Tell me a story, make it new, right? Not old. Never pass up change to go to the bathroom. Okay, that I wasn't expecting that one, but sure, a change to so to go to the bathroom. Yeah, but okay, fair enough. All right, you want to focus, right? Always say yes when they offer you free food and drink. Also, something I've never heard before, but okay, he's a veteran, so let's take it. All right. So Sharon Catchins, creating powerful radio tips. Quality never goes out of style. Don't run with rumors. Keep your views out of the news. Take notes. Sound recordings can fail. Accuracy, accuracy, accuracy. Very, very, it goes without saying, right? Reporting fully and fairly. It's not news to barge into a disaster or crime scene and ask a victim, how do you feel, right? Why isn't it? Because how they feel is not relevant to the larger majority. You understand? We want to know what happened. Okay. Who did this? Who are you and why were you here? I'm not sure, right? To bring it further. Listen, please, so that you can have a great immersive experience, right? While you are compiling and constructing that piece. Good reporting and good sound make good radio. And if it's not clear to you, it's not going to be clear to the audience, right? So, so Mark Howell's creating powerful radio news tips. Grab them with obviously the lead, and don't pull those punches, right? Concentrate on what politicians do, not say, not so much on what they say, right? Natural sound is always good. We know why now. Every word must matter. So use with brevity and caution, right? When interviewing, please listen. Once again, look for story ideas in out of town media and don't waste time, right? You got to be a lot, there's a lot happening around you. And as I said to you before in the previous lesson, like the news people are always busy, okay? Get professional voice training if you need it and understand the technical basis of sound production. More advice. This is from Denise Jimenez Adams, right? Jimenez Adams, which is Adam, right? Work as hard at communicating with your bosses and co-workers as you do with your audience. Very important, right? Because right there, it's plain and simple. I don't have to carry on or justify that one, right? Know your boundaries, and those of the station. So within the business strat, within the brand, within the target audience, within. Practice ad-libbing, which means going, going rogue factually so that your spontaneity with the news doesn't tarnish your station's reputation or your own, because words can be swords, right? Careful. News services are important resources. Read for content and style, for emulation, and for information. She goes on to say, don't assume that you know more than your audience. Never. That your audience knows more than you. That your opinion is welcome or important. Very important, all of these things. Create your own style in writing and delivery. Experience what your audience experiences so that you can ask the questions that matter. Communicate with the facts that are needed and tailor the emotion to the situation. Feel and they will feel with you. More tips, right? But I think these ones we've gone through. The majority of them we have gone through. Len, another Jimenez, right? She says, take a breath, pace yourself, learn how to fix any equipment that you use. Never throw away any phone number ever, right? Super important, right? The news crew is not your family, so don't go there. Keep professional. Keep personal. Be comfortable with change. Have a conversation. Don't lecture. You're a human being. Remember that the broadcast is broadcasting. That broadcasting, excuse me, is a small world, and when we say that, particularly, you should know, because it's so small, what you do and what you say in comparison to other places, right? Other broadcasting uh, providers, right? Is always being compared, and there's selection right there, especially in this country. This we did because it's from, I particularly remember it because it's from my textbook, right? So I'm going to go there. This also was there. We did also this, remember, right? And then reporting, remember, we also looked here, sell the story to the casual reader or listener and bring across the main point very quickly, the lead, so that even if the listener stops listening after the first sentence or two, they actually know what's going on. Right? Remember Ingram and Henschel? Yeah. We did the transition back and forth from TV to radio and radio to TV. And of course, we had some hints for you. Please, I would say, go. Just grab the spotlight where you can, because you want to be able to build on free publicity, right? Okay. Benefit from all information media, right? So the pyramid of an inverted pyramid of news writing, we went through this. Most important to least important, please. Grammatically simple, very important to keep, once again, everything you write in that bulletin simple, and then ask yourself the questions, the W's and the H. There was a preference over here, it was advised, right? But I don't see any difference as to which ones you do start with, because you can, and 10 to 1, you will use multiple ones within your lead itself. Okay, so again, like once the lead is done, let's ask ourselves certain questions we've seen before. Is the most newsworthy point included in is the most newsworthy point included in this story? Is it more than 20 words? If so, trying to cut it down. um Remember, we argued about, I'm not that's you can't go by that. Every station has its own policy, right? Okay, so go according to the station's mandate. Have you used the active voice, and is it up to date? And are the verbs like correct in the tense, right? Okay, steps to help you help write the remainder of your bulletin, right? Adjust the language, review it, never repeat information. If the lead doesn't grab the listener's attention, the story will not either. Again, typically 100 to 300 words long, between, again, 30 to maybe even sometimes 60 seconds. Write the conclusion, check the whole story over, and fact check. Right. Okay, and we'll discuss why repetition is. Do not repeat yourself. You don't have a lot of time. So please, and the commas, conjunctives, right? Why? Just one fact, one sentence. That's it. Okay. Because we work digitally, right? This doesn't really apply. And then you need to write out things, even pronunciations. How do you say it instead of spelling it, right? Okay. All right. And again, other don'ts, right, and do's, which we have also discussed to length. Remember this about like making mistakes and how much tolerance a listener and your boss has. Right. Okay, and there was the advice: what, why, and how before who, when, and where most of the time, right? So these two we've also covered. Pause is refreshing. And now you'll remember as we move on here. So this is Geller's checkpoints list, right? Multi-version news, where you are going to go and update that all the time, every half hour. You want to include different angles, right, to be telling new points in the story, but also the entire bulletin should be updated every half hour sidebar, right? Okay. As you'll see in, I think, we have there's the example of it right here, we are, right, as you saw in the examples, remember? Right. Okay, so all these things apply, all these slides apply to multi-version news. And remember that we went through the different examples that were up. This was shorthand. I'm going to say shorthand news because it was just basically an update in a way, right? Okay. All right. Okay. No, this was the updates only, the headlines. That one was about the storm, right, with the poor people, and they were underground and so on and so forth, right? Okay, right, bring it all together. Again, it really is something that you will polish over time. Promise, absolutely promise, and you'll learn and you'll get better the more you do it, and the more you pay attention to how you do it, right? For sport, we said the accuracy, always accuracy, accessibility. So in terms of like, is the sport accessible to the public? And what is the context? And, sometimes we do want opinions in news. I'm saying in sports writing itself, okay? There we covered, obviously, the basics. Remember this, don't be friends with the players and the athletes, even though you must create a good rapport with relationships that you do create within the sporting space in general, just in general. It's important, right? Okay. And there's an example over here on page 196 and 197 in Next Level Radio. Right. Sources, right? Please, sources and fact checking, super important. And becoming an expert at a particular sport, right? And then and really honing down on that, knowing your audience, etc., etc. Provide more information about sports that are not do not get mentioned much here in South Africa. So let's give it more exposure, right? Okay, then we literally just did this now about integration and voxes, etc., etc. We literally just did this. So I'm going to stop that right there. Okay. Then so I'm going to stop the share. I'm going to go. Yeah, that's fine. Give me a second. Share some. Let's go to YouTube. Let's watch that bullet. I promise you. Let's do the bulletin first. Okay, here we go.
So it seems police have now just gained entry. They are now entering the property to go and conduct these evictions.
Police fired rubber bullets at illegal occupiers in Germiston, Ekurhuleni on Tuesday during a tense standoff with law enforcement officials. The confrontation erupted as City of Ekurhuleni officials carried out an eviction at a building reportedly illegally occupied. Scores found themselves being evicted from their units alongside their furniture from beds, fridge, washing machine, clothes and even blankets being carried out. Many argued that they were not informed about this eviction and that they had nowhere to go. But law enforcement argued otherwise, claiming the court issued out a court order in June and that occupants were well aware of what was coming, but never heeded to the warning.
This morning, the police, and I mean SAPS and EMPD, were supposed to, we already pre-planned to escort and support the sheriff of the court to execute a court order, which the illegal occupants here knew of. They were given several warnings. The court order was issued in June. They were given enough time, enough warnings, but they didn't adhere to. Now we planned the execution this morning. And unfortunately, I think in one way or another, the information leaked that today we are going to execute, as they are not complying to the court order. And they decided to block the main roads and all the roads that come to this premises. And unfortunately, some of them, when they realized the police and the law enforcement and sheriff are now coming in to do their work, they bent the building of Department of Home Affairs completely, which becomes more problematic because it's not what we expect. We expect law-abiding citizens. We expect the citizens, if they are not happy, there is legal processes which they were supposed to follow, but not to destroy the property which they need, which they will need even in future to utilize their services. It's essential infrastructure which they've destroyed. And when the police also were coming in with the sheriff, they started throwing stones to prohibit and hinder them from executing their duties. And that we didn't allow, we won't allow, and even in future we won't allow such things, because we are here to do what is expected of us, to protect the lives and property. And these properties, there is people who these houses belong to legally, who are supposed to occupy these houses. Now, here comes the vagrant, or not vagrants per se, here comes people who just decided they take law in their own hands and give themselves properties illegally, and that can...
In the area was satellite alleged. Ekurhuleni EMS spokesperson William Hladi, who was at the scene, said the fire had severely damaged the top floor of the building, while the lower level was not as damaged. No one was injured or killed in the blaze, and the cause of the fire still remains under investigation. To date, 2 suspects have been arrested in connection with the incident. Meanwhile, the Department of Home Affairs in Gauteng is putting alternative measures in place to ensure that services continue.
At this point, we have identified 2 offices, being Alberton and Boksburg, where we will be able to assist the clients. Obviously, today we could not assist any of them. So tomorrow we will be having mobile units both at Boksburg and at Alberton office, where we will be assisting. Now, people who are coming to make applications, that we should be able to do. The challenge at this point is with collection of documents. As indicated by EMS now, our ground floor, there was no fire damage, but there was water damage. But fortunately, all the documents, the IDs as well as passports, they are safely locked. So as soon as SAPS is due with what they need to, we will go in and check whether we are able to take out all the documents. So you can imagine the number of documents in that safe. At this point, I'm making an appeal with clients who are coming to collect that they should not collect. We will maybe from Thursday, they can start going to the 2 offices, that is Alberton and Alberton and Boksburg office.
Sports, Arts and Culture Minister Gayton McKenzie says he can't apologize for something he didn't do. He's accused of posting racist tweets over a decade ago. It comes after he called for accountability for the Open Chat podcasters. They had made derogatory remarks towards the colored community.
Because I wasn't racist. Must I be so desperate for a job that I start apologizing for stuff? I'm a brother. I'm another type of guy, not that. What you see here, they fear me. They have been calling me Pantit, mustn't be here. They've been saying, hey, this Pantit mustn't be a minister. Then every time I beat them at the by-elections, where's Pantit and all? Now they found racism. What? How can I be racist, my brother? Me? You think 15 years ago I thought I'm going to be a minister? I was a rich, black, socialite, living life, owning nightclubs, driving sports cars. And when I became a minister, I found God and I changed my whole life. If you want to punish me at the ballot box. As far as the job is concerned, I got so much love for my president that if he tells me right now to resign, I will resign and I'll go na my mense toe, dat ons werk vir 2026. Spijzani.
Unemployment rate has edged higher again in the second quarter of 2025, reaching 33.2%. This is according to data released by Stats SA. This marks an increase of 0.3 percentage points from the first quarter, surprising economists who had predicted a more modest rise to 33%. The notorious Gupta compound in Saxonwold has been sold. Business rescue petitioners accepted an offer of 34 million. This sale follows just weeks after the compound went under the hammer, with one of the houses selling at a significantly lower price. The house, known as Property 3, which served as a staff quarter, sold just 3.3 million, which was a decrease from the original amount of 5 million. Pretoria will be sending a new trade offer to Washington amid the ongoing standoff. Government has been outlining measures to mitigate the impact of Trump's 30% tariffs, which came into effect last week. The Minister of Trade and Industry, Pax Dawu, says Cabinet has approved South Africa to submit a revised offer as a basis of negotiation with the U.S.
Okay. All right, I know, yeah. Okay, so here is this one I was telling you about.
This is the news, and now a very important news sting. I'm a newsreader, and these are the headlines in order. First, the main local news story, followed by another sting. Next, a large national news story and another sting. And finally, an international item that possibly won't interest you as much. Larger sting to finish it all off. Good afternoon, morning, evening, it's the time. Now, the first of those headlines in more detail. Our lead story today involves a local group who are campaigning against something that could affect you or someone you know in the future. With even more detail, here's a young-sounding lady.
I'm here with more detail on this story. I'm used here because a different voice makes it sound as though I'm a specialist in this particular field, and I've managed to source some previously unavailable information. To back this up, I asked a man a question.
And here is my comment.
From the bit of research I did, I'm now able to challenge the man's comment before handing back to the original newsreader after this unnecessary jingle.
Alessa's story is building in an area further away from you and therefore not of such immediate importance, so no dramatic news tabs here, just this one to separate it from the international story. With all the sports news, here's a male voice.
Thanks to the newsreader from me as I begin in a noticeably more casual manner. After all, this is just a sport, not to be taken too seriously. I have a football story to start with, as that's a big audience puller, and this quote from a professional football manager.
Yeah, well, obviously this is where I come in with a comment about the game that just took place.
I make an off-the-cuff stab.
And finally, a wrap-up of the main stories. Even though you heard them all a couple of minutes ago, I emphasised the main story in my tone of voice. And now the weather after this weather jingle. Dry comment about how shit the weather is in our part of the world before signing off with a reminder that the news will be on again in 1 hour.
Okay, sorry about the swearing. All right, that's it. I'll see you in class next week. Cheers, bye.